Well, thank you for coming on. I'm Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. And thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it from wherever you're watching from. I do appreciate any support. One of the things that has captured my attention lately is not just emotional incest or emotional enmeshment, the golden child scapegoat family dynamics, the narcissistic mother or the covert narcissistic family, has been narcissism in itself. And I do acknowledge Professor Sam Vaknin. For those of you that don't know who he is, let's have a look. Here, Professor Sam Vaknin. This man in 1995, I believe, came up with the word narcissism and has since been prolific with the teachings on it, and many people come off the back of what he has learned. An amazing man. Very amazing man. Professor Sam Vaknin, my acknowledgements to him. Well, for me, I'm just a Australian who became a minister. I was a bricklayer. I was a slaughterman, believe it or not, when I left school. I failed at school and became a slaughterman, which was a terrible job. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, definitely not for the faint-hearted. Killing things and chopping things up and all the stuff that comes with that. I learnt quick at the age of 16, 17 what being a man was and what being a man wasn't, what the object of work was and what money was meant to be for. And I can't say I haven't wasted money on motorbikes and cars and things, but I learnt quick, and I bought my first house when I was 18. At the age of 21, I looked out the slaughterhouse window, and there was a crack there, and I thought, I can't do this for the rest of my life. There was a job there that you'd get sent over to the trucks where the animals got injured on the trucks and they'd be half alive and broken legs, and some would die in the trucks, called the dead house. It was called the dead house. And when you got sent to the dead house, it was horrible. You're on your own, there's no work mates with you, you've got animals dying all around you and you're chopping them up, you're slaughtering them, the whole thing. And that has an impact on your life. It really does. It played on me, but it taught me that life can put you in some situations that you would never dream of. I used the horror of those days to mature. I can't say it was easy. I had a lot of conflict and a lot of confrontations, and I learnt from those confrontations. I remember after working in all the blood and stuff, everyone would shower in the same showers, and I learnt from the men how to groom myself and look after myself. I also learnt from the men how to not look after yourself through alcohol and drugs and things. At a very young age, I figured that the way to live is like your parents. Just find someone to love and do the best that you can with that person. But that hasn't worked for me. So far it hasn't worked for me. I've just had another breakup 4 months ago, which I initiated through complex reasons that have led me through this journey of moving a little bit away from theology and Christian psychology, more into the area of narcissism and emotional incest and things like this that seem to be dominant now in our society, and these things are affecting people at tremendous levels, where some people are recovering. Many people are losing their relationships through not being aware excuse me, through not being aware themselves that they're possibly suffering from these things. I've put the scriptures up because I've noticed that there are a lot of Christian people who are becoming aware of narcissism and trying to help people out of it, have been the victims of it. And I think if by just bringing some scriptures after what I've learnt from the scriptures and what it's done for me and how it's helped me to be able to discern if my relationship is heading in the right direction or not, and to have the courage to just walk away where need be. And when I say courage, it breaks your heart as well. It's not just, oh, well, that's that. No. It's been 4 months of, and years, all the other breakups before that. There's never an easy one. But if you have the right reasons and you have no other choice, then that's all there is to it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your life, and you don't get that back again. When you get to 57, where I'm at, you start to value time in a much more different way. And if somebody's not performing and you're just being haggled or used, or you're just being half addressed in the relationship, then no, you just haven't got time. There's no time. Verse 3 of 21 of the Proverbs says, "The Lord is more pleased when we do what is right and just than when we offer him sacrifices." And what I've found is that a lot of people try to find their identity through what they do, through what they give to people. Be it through work, be it through their domestic life. But what I'm finding is a lot of it is enabling dysfunction, and can be enabling narcissism, particularly parents with their children, where they're over-edifying the children and over-exhorting the children, exalting them, even when they haven't done anything to deserve it. And this gives the children an impression that they can do whatever they want and be praised. But what happens with that is, when these children aren't praised and life isn't so kind to them, this can cause injury, narcissistic injury inside these children. And that then starts a whole cycle of events inside the domestic home that can lead to the mother now, or the mother trying to rescue these children from themselves and just feeding into the problem itself by way of trying to rescue the child rather than help the child mature. And I've said this to my partners, that really it's not the mother's job to discipline the children, and this is where the men fail. It's not just the single mothers, but the men fail as well, because they're not there, for whatever reason, to discipline the children and help them to grow. And some men just ain't able to do that anyway. And so the Lord's more pleased when we do what is right and just. And doing what is right and just sometimes is hard. Hard, particularly as a parent, when you've got to be firm and say, hang on a minute, that's not the right direction, I want you to go in this direction, and they're still going in the wrong direction, and you've got to stand up straight and say, no, that is not the right direction, and we're going to get this right, even if they're adults. And this happens all the time. It's not about the things, the sacrifices we make for these children. It's about the results we get in our relationships from the way we apply ourselves to bring wisdom to other people's lives. And this is what the Lord's trying to say. I don't care what you're trying to do for me. I don't care how you're trying to make me happy and stop me from being sad. All I'm asking is, don't harm yourself or anybody else. Do what is right and just. And that always comes back to the golden rule, which is, don't harm yourself or anybody else. Don't have a relationship where you're half-hearted. That's going to cause stress. That's going to antagonize and frustrate your partner. That's not right and just. Try and have a relationship with someone that you value enough to be able to say, right, I'm selling out to this. And not to the harm of the people around you, but for the benefit of everyone involved. That's what it's about. Because when we do try and do things to make people happy and stop them from being sad, which is these sacrifices, these misled sacrifices that we make, we're actually going into verse 4, which says, haughty eyes, a proud heart, and evil actions are all sin. So sometimes when we're coming to the rescue and supplying people with dysfunction, and we think we're helping them, but we're only enabling them to stay in a state that's not right or just, we're producing a narcissistic environment. Now, they may not have an NPD in the clinical sense of the term or thing, but you are creating an element in that person that can be psychologically narcissistic, and put on top of that some demons. You've got a psychological and spiritual degenerate. They're going to degenerate. Whatever they touch will collapse around them. Haughty eyes, a proud heart, and evil actions are all sin. Now, evil actions you may not necessarily see, and these sacrifices from verse 3 you may not necessarily see. A lot of this stuff is covert. It's stuff you don't see. It's happening in the emotional, spiritual, psychological realm. And it's working in a way that's producing pride, eyes that are haughty. I've watched a couple of videos today about when people's eyes go black. Well, just for the record, I've made love to women and their eyes have turned black in the heat of it all. Black. From brown or blue, green to black. And I've just gone, oh, well, whatever's going on is going on. But I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen women's eyes go black in the middle of the sexual act. Black, pupil, the whole eye, black. Make of that what you will. I would put it down to a whole range of psychological unresolve, and throw some demons on top. And again, you've got eyes of the night, eyes of the darkness. And I'm not criticizing that, I'm just saying I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. I can see it right now. I can see those eyes going black. I can see them. Just black. Haughty eyes, a proud heart, and evil actions are all sin, and they're not necessarily overt. A lot of these things are covert. A proud heart is covert. You can't see it till it manifests. Haughty eyes, you don't know what's going through the mind of that person when they're looking at things with their eyes. Sometimes you can tell. When you're looking somebody up and down, you can tell. But the Lord's pleased when we do what is right and just. And these are the opposite things to haughty eyes and a proud heart and evil actions. It's the opposite. It's humble eyes and a humble heart and good actions. And that's hard these days by the sound of it. A lot of people aren't successful with that. A lot of people are meeting up with people and they're just turning out to have haughty eyes, a proud heart and evil actions in the middle of what's right and just. And that's unfair. That's why they recognize the honeymoon love bomb stage, limerence stage, and then as the haughty eyes, proud heart and evil actions and sin come in, you begin the devalue stage. But for a lot of people, even if they are right and just, this can be very exciting because there's an element of all of us, in all of us, particularly in the bedroom, that will feed on these evil desires and lusts. Let's just be honest. How do you overcome that? Well, we all have different things going on in our heads, and I'm not going to, be too impersonal. But if you're doing right and you're being just, then that's different to this covert eyes and heart and actions. It takes tremendous discernment to know what's really going on in the mind of someone. I've had partners where they've just stopped texting, they don't ring. You're just guessing where they are and what they're doing, and they turn up. You're just a form of supply, and off they go again. That's not right. It's not right. It's just not right. Might be right to them, but it's not right. In the long run, that's just not right. So good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. Now, good planning could be saying, like I've done for the last 4 months, that's it. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to understand things better. I'm going to refrain from relationships. That's it. I'm going to look inside, examine myself, because I want to do the work, the hard work and planning that leads to prosperity. That's what I want to do. But hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. And these shortcuts could be coming out of one relationship and jumping into bed with somebody else. Whereas some people would advise that, and that possibly might work for some people, in the long run, it's not going to lead to prosperity. Because you're not coming out of the poverty mindset. Shortcuts do not release you from a poverty mindset. That's why people that are wise say, stop, do the hard work, plan, and head towards prosperity. People don't want to do that. There's a spirit, it's called a spirit of poverty, that makes people just give in and try and find the easy way out. Narcissistic minimalists. It's horrible. Narcissistic minimalists. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. The Bible just says it how it is, doesn't it? It really does. So let's wrap up there. We'll go through these 3 passages again. The Lord is more pleased when we do what is right and just, and that means to not harm ourselves or anybody else, which is to love your neighbour as yourself, than when we offer him sacrifices. He's not interested in what we do or don't do to try and make him happy or stop him from being sad. And that comes down to the finished work of the Lord Jesus Christ. We just believe in that. But when we do, and this is amazing, this is Romans 7, when we do try and make God happy or stop him from being sad by what we do and don't do, we end up with haughty eyes, a proud heart, and evil actions. We end up in sin. Romans 7. Read Romans 7. Work out what Paul was talking about. And of course, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. And that doesn't necessarily mean your job. It means within yourself as well. And hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. The narcissist tries to find the easy way out. and they'll try and condition you to accepting a minimal effort in the relationship and condition you to accepting that so that they can live a double life. You'll be a primary source of supply, and they'll have other sources of supply outside your relationship. Now, that could be another person or persons, it could be children, it could be pets. But you are only a form of supply, and the way you can tell if they're not beside you, if they're not wanting to be there with you building, that's it. You're just a form of supply, and you either accept it or you reject it. I've come to the point now in several relationships where I've looked at the situation and gone, this is so pathetic. I'm not giving my strength and energy to this anymore. I don't want to give my intimacy to this anymore. No. And I've warned and I've tried to communicate. The problems haven't been resolved and you break down. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this as well. Good planning and hard work within yourself, dealing with yourself, lead to prosperity. I'm Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Thanks for coming in, and bye for now.